Yeah, you do today. I'm early, and today I felt like doing a reading of Sasha Shulgin's experience and walk through um, a mescaline type higher trip. This will be his synthetic mescaline. It's rather interesting. This is one of my favorite things to read when I'm bored or lonely, which I am. I'm usually lonely, so I always turn to Sasha's recipes. So here we go. So duration 10 to 12 hours. Qualitative comments with 300 milligrams. Now, this is coming from his book, Pical. And, okay, I'll begin. With 300 milligrams, I would have liked to and was expecting to have an exciting visual day, but I seemed to be unable to escape self-analysis. At the peak of the experience, I was quite intoxicated and hyper with energy, so that it was not hard to move around. I was quite restless, but I spent most of the day in considerable agony, attempting to break through without success. I learned a great deal about myself and my inner workings. Everything was almost was, but in the final analysis, wasn't. I began to become aware of a point, a brilliant white light, that seemed to be where God was entering, and it was inconceivably wonderful to perceive it and to be close to it. One wished for it to approach with all one's heart. I could see that people would sit and meditate for hours on end just to hope that this little bit of light would contact them. I begged for it to continue and come closer, but it did not. It faded away, not to return in that particular guise for the rest of the day. Listening to Mozart's Requiem, there were magnificent heights of beauty and glory. The world was so far away from God, and nothing was more important than getting back in touch with Him. But I saw how he created the nuclear fiasco to threaten the existence of the planet, as if it would be the only through the threat of complete annihilation that people might wake up and begin to become concerned about each other. And so also with the famines of Africa, many similar scenes of joy and despair kept me in balance. I ended up the experience in a very peaceful space, feeling though I had been through a lot. I had accomplished a great deal. I felt wonderful, free, and clear. With 350 milligrams dose. Once I got through the nausea stage, I ventured outdoors and I was aware of an intensification of color and considerable change in texture of the cloth in my skirt and in the concrete of the sidewalk, and in the flowers and leaves that were handed me by an observer. I experienced a desire to laugh hysterically at what I could only describe as completely ridiculous state of the entire world. Although I was afraid of motion, I was persuaded to take a ride in a car. The driver turned to the radio and started the music. The March of the Siamese Children from The King and I became the most perfect background music for the parody of real life, which was indeed the normal activity of Telegraph Avenue on any Saturday morning. The perfectly ordinary people, on their perfectly ordinary errands, were clearly the most cleverly contrived set of characters, all performing all manners of eccentric activities for our particular hilarity and enjoyment. I felt that I was at the same time both observing and performing in an outrageous moving picture. I experienced one moment of transcendent happiness when, while passing Epworth Hall, I looked out of the window of the car and up at the building, and I was suddenly in Italy looking up at a gay apartment building with its shutters flung open in sunshine, and with its window boxes with flowers. We stopped at a spot overlooking the bay, but I found the view uninteresting and the sun uncomfortable. I sat there on the seat of the car, looking down at the ground, and the earth became a mosaic of beautiful stones which had been placed in an intricate design, which soon all began to move in a serpentine manner. Then I became aware that I was looking at the skin of a beautiful snake. All the ground around me was the same huge creature, and we were all standing on the back of this gigantic and beautiful reptile. The experience was very pleasing, and I felt no revulsion. Just then, another automobile stopped to look at the view, and I experienced my first real feeling of persecution, and I wanted very much to leave. Alright, and we continue. This gets good. With 400 milligrams, during the initial phase of intoxication, between 2 and 3 hours, everything seemed to have a humorous interpretation. People's faces are in caricature. Small cars seem to be chasing big cars, and all cars coming towards me seem to have faces. This one is a duchess moving in a regal pomp. This one is a wizened old man running away from someone. A remarkable effect of this drug is the extreme empathy felt for all small things. A stone, a flower, an insect. I believe that it would be impossible to harm anything, to commit an overt harmful or painful act on anyone, or anything is beyond one's capabilities. One cannot pluck a flower, and even walk up a gravel path requires one to pick his footing carefully, to avoid hurting or disturbing the stones. I found the color perception to be the most striking aspect of the experience. The slightly difference of shade could be amplified to extreme contrast. Many subtle hues became phosphorescent in intensity. Saturated colors were often unchanged, but they were surrounded by cascades of new colors tumbling over edges. And we finish with 400 milligrams. It took a long time to come on, and I was afraid that I had done it wrong, but my concerns were soon ended. The world soon became transformed, where objects glowed as if from an inner illumination, and my body sprang to life. The sense of my body being alive in my muscles and sinews filled me with enormous joy. I watched Romina fill the brimming with animal spirit, her features transformed, her body cat-like and graceful nature movement. I was stopped in my tracks. The world seemed to hold its breath as the cat changed again into the goddess. As she shed her clothes, she shed her ego, and the dance began. Romina was no more. There was only the dance without the slightest self-conscientious. How can anything so beautiful be chained and changed by others' expectations? I became aware of myself and her, and as we looked deeply into one another, my boundaries disappeared, and I became her looking at me. I think I'll actually finish with a little bit of extensions and commentary. Mescaline is one of the oldest psychedelics known to man. It is a major active component of the small dumpling cactus known as peyote. It grows wild in southwestern United States and northern Mexico, and has been used as an intimate component of a number of religious traditions amongst native Indians of these areas. The cactus with the botanical name of Flora Wilmsey, can't really pronounce it, and is immediately recognized by its small round shape and appearance of tufts of soft fuzz in place of the more conventional spines. The dry plant material has been classically used anywhere from a few to a dozen of hard tops called buttons being consumed in the course of a ceremony. Throughout the more recently published record of clinical human studies with mescaline, it has been used in the form of synthetic material and has been administered as a sulfate salt. While this form has a miserable melting point, it contains water of crystallization, extracting rate, heating a sample. Nonetheless, forms magnificent crystals from water. Long glistening needles that are, in a sense, its signature and its mark of purity. The doses associated with the above qualitative comments are given as if measured as a sulfate, although the actual form used was usually the hydrochloric salt. Conversion factor is given under dosage. mescaline, there's a little bit of history as far as psychedelic drugs go, like compounds. So, mescaline has always been the essential standard against which all other compounds are viewed. So that means like LSD or MDMA. We've always rated it towards things. Toxicity level is rated, or LD50 is rated against mescaline. Even the United States Chemical Warfare Group, in their human studies of a number of substituted fentanyls, used mescaline as a reference material for both quantitative and qualitative comparisons. So now it goes into various forms and talks a little bit more about the peyote cactus, but I think I'll leave it at that. There you go.